Well, on Wednesday, the country will celebrate Human Rights Day under the theme, You Don't Choose Your Family. They are God's gift to you as you are to them. Well, the recent smooth transition of power between former President Jacob Zuma and President Cyril Ramaphosa has once again reaffirmed South Africa's position as a beacon of political stability and observer of law in the continent. However, issues such as the recent motion supporting land expropriation without compensation has become a subject of a much-heated debate. With the issues being racialized and now also making international news, I have the pleasure of sitting today with a reverend human rights lawyer and anti-apartheid activist, Advocate George Bizos, to talk about the state of the country somewhat. Very good morning to you, Mr. Bizos. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for asking me to speak to you.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Are you keeping well?
Thank you.
All right. Firstly, let's just discuss Human Rights Day. Comes up on the 21st of March. Essentially, what does that day mean to you?
Well, from my university days, at least, fundamental human rights were part and parcel of the people of the world should really go for. I am a refugee. I was treated properly by South Africans, even though my speeches at Wits University prevented my getting South African citizenship for over 30 years. But eventually they gave in.
They gave in.
I did political cases from 1954 to date. I haven't retired.
Yeah, you're still keeping strong in your 90s, Mr. Bizos.
There is unfinished business with the people who were killed by the security police during the apartheid years, and the magistrates exonerated them. I have written a book, No One to Blame, ? But we have now recently succeeded in showing that the No One to Blame for Timor was false. He was really thrown out of a 10th floor window, and we proved that at the end of last year.
Congratulations.
And there are about 60 other cases of a similar nature. I am working at the Legal Resources Center. I'm the old man, not very good with computers, but I'm surrounded by very clever young people like you, who I speak about what I remember, and they play up and bring it up on the computers, which I find that's something that, whilst I can, I have to continue the job that I started.
Definitely. I think that you have a lot of knowledge, though. You probably have more knowledge, or more or less the same as a computer. In terms of a country right now, how do you think South Africa is honoring human rights, if any?
I am concerned about the statements that, particularly in relation to the ownership of land, together with Arthur Chaskelson and others, I took part in the writing of the Constitution.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela made a great contribution in relation to the democratic South Africa of the future. Even when he was an attorney and not done well by the authorities, even whilst he was a prisoner, even whilst he, after his release, played an important role in writing this constitution. And he has written, he spoke from the dock. He over and over again spoke after his release that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and we must form a democratic state. I am concerned about the present attempt to say that Nelson Mandela let the black people of the country down. I think, having been his friend and having written a book, 65 Years of Friendship with Nelson Mandela, that an injustice is being done to him, this minority who says that he let the black people down. There are two sections in this constitution, in paragraph 25 and 74, which actually deals with the distribution of land to everyone in South Africa. It sets out in about 20 sub-paragraphs what steps were to be taken by the people that took over in 1994. And to the two particularly sections, 25 and 74. The people who say that Nelson Mandela let any section of the population down by agreeing to this constitution do not really know what he did, what the constitution says, and how this constitution was adopted by Parliament with only 2 against and 12 abstentions. The 400 odd others agreed to abide by it. And I am concerned all the pressure, presumably, that has been put on Mr. Ramaphosa to say that steps must be taken. I am sure that South Africa as a whole will honor the Constitution as a whole. South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
South Africa belongs to all who live in it. Indeed, that's so beautiful, Mr. Bizos. Just before we wrap it up, of course, this year is going to be, this year marks the 100th centenary of your dear friend Nelson Mandela. How, in honouring Human Rights Day coming next week, do you think that Madiba should be remembered?
We should never forget him. I met him when he sought me out because I made a speech at the Women's University in 1948. We became friends. He as a lawyer and I as an advocate with many cases together. I acted for him, the members of the African National Congress and other political organizations. I thought that it was my duty, together with others, to do the right thing for the people who fought for democracy in South Africa, Mandela was amongst all of them. I am a Greek refugee.
Mm-hmm.
Mandela and I went to Greece with our wives after his release.
Yeah.
And he actually spoke to the Greek parliament and said, Greece is the mother of democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I wish South Africa to be among its foremost daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't forget that. And I defend what he stood for.
Mm-hmm.
And I am sure that the vast majority of South Africa will believe what the Constitution said and what I have included
Mm-hmm.
in the third book that I have written, particularly 65 years of friendship.
Yeah. And your face still lights up as you talk about Mr. Madiba. Your face still lights up.
He was a man that you had to respect because of his generosity of spirit. I would visit him on the island. He didn't hate his warders. The first time I went 2 or 3 months after he was sent to Robben Island, 8 of them brought him to the office, to the room with a car.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to each one of the 8 by their first name and second name. And because we embraced before and he wanted to know how Willie was and how the children were, how they get on school. And then he turned and said, George, I'm sorry, I've lost my manners. I have not introduced you to my royal entourage. And he proceeded to introduce each one of them by name and first name and last name, and, you know. And he was a man who believed, before he went to prison, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. Mm-hmm. And when he was on trial for treason before 3 judges, one of the judges said, Mr. Mandela, you call for 1 man, 1 vote. You know that we whites are much fewer than you, and we are afraid that we may be sidelined if we do, if we accept 1 man, 1 vote, we will not have any political power.
Yeah.
And his answer was, I can't tell you as a prisoner on trial what may happen. What I want to tell you is what I think. I believe that if fundamental change comes about, it will be better for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in it. He said it over and over again. He was not alone. Millions of people voted for him and his party. And I think that the question of land is a difficult one.
Yeah, it definitely is.
This is why in Section 25 we have 9 subsections setting out what the government is expected to do. The government, unfortunately, in the 20-odd years, has done practically nothing in applying what the Constitution voted for by the vast majority of the people of South Africa, black and white. And now they say that he sold out.
Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning, Advocate George Bizos. An absolute honor to be able to talk to you this morning, and also to see your eyes light up as you talk about your dear friend, Mr. Madiba, and also remembering and reminiscing, as well as discussing the importance of Human Rights Day that is coming up in the next week. The 21st of March marks the Human Rights Day here in South Africa. And speaking to Advocate George Bizos, of course, his memories thereof, as well as the issues around land and his views, and the Advocate George Bizos did make reference to the Constitution.